In medieval Europe, the world was ruled by fear. A fear that did not come only from hunger or war, but from the invisible, from what could not be explained. Faith, which should have protected, began to demand enemies. Women who knew herbs, midwives, widows, the lonely, the poor, or simply those who were different began to be watched. A whisper was enough. A crooked look. An accusation without proof. They were called witches. It was believed they made pacts with the devil, poisoned wells, spread diseases, and controlled hidden forces. Many were arrested, interrogated, tortured, and executed. Not because there was evidence, but because fear needed someone to blame. Alongside these women, another target emerged: cats, especially black cats. They were said to be witches, familiars, that they spied on homes, that they carried curses, that they could see what humans could not. Entire cities began to exterminate them. Cats were killed in public squares, thrown into bonfires, drowned, hanged, all in the name of spiritual purification. They believed they were expelling evil. Without realizing, they were destroying balance. Then, something began to change. Without cats, rats took over the cities. They invaded homes, churches, storehouses, beds. No one worried. Rats had always existed, but they did not come alone. In the fleas they carried traveled an invisible bacterium, silent, relentless. When the first people fell ill, no one understood. Fever, swelling, death within days. The Black Death had arrived. And when the disease began to kill without explanation, faith turned into desperation. The plague was seen as divine punishment. God was believed to be punishing humanity for its sins. Once again, the search for scapegoats began. Jews were accused of poisoning wells. Women were once again labeled witches. The poor, foreigners, and heretics were persecuted, expelled, or killed. Many believed the devil walked among the living, spreading the plague. Processions crossed infected cities. People flogged themselves, begging for forgiveness. Others burned innocents, hoping for divine mercy. Fear strengthened religious power, and religious power strengthened violence in the name of God. Meanwhile, the plague did not choose sinners. It killed rich and poor, clergy and peasants, children and the elderly. Entire cities vanished. Bells rang so often to announce deaths that, in some places, they stopped ringing altogether. There was no one left to ring them. It is estimated that 1/3 of Europe's population died, and then, slowly, the plague receded. Not because the guilty were punished, not because witches were eliminated, not because God was appeased, but because the cycle of the disease ended. When silence finally arrived, only questions and guilt remained. Too late, it was realized that exterminating cats opened the way for rats. Fanaticism killed almost as much as the disease, and the true poison was fear. When transformed into blind faith, the Black Death was not only a biological tragedy, it was a brutal portrait of what happens when humanity chooses to burn enemies instead of confronting ignorance. And perhaps the greatest lesson of that time is this: the plague fueled fanaticism, and fanaticism fueled persecution. But what truly killed millions was fear, when it was given permission to rule. It was never about God. It was never about faith. It was never about the cats. It was about ignorance disguised as faith. An ignorance that, once again, nearly destroyed an entire nation. Time passed, but mankind did not change. How many, with inflated egos, still believe they have the right to decide who should live and who should die? And the most dangerous ones are not those who create ideas. They are those who are weak enough to follow them. It was not a single man who committed all those barbarities. It took only one fragile idea, built on ego, built on blind beliefs, built on fear. And that idea was enough for thousands of innocents to pay the price. In this story, not even the cats, gentle and defenseless animals, escaped unharmed. They were hunted, burned, and killed. Not because they were dangerous, but because they became symbols of human fear. This is the true horror, not the supernatural, not the devil, but what only human beings are capable of when they surrender their conscience to fear and call it faith.